So, last night was AEW Redemption, and yeah, this was an interesting one as far as like AEW pay-per-views go, because I don't know whether this is the general consensus, because I've like just woke up after the night before, or the afternoon after, sorry. That it was last night, and obviously in the UK it doesn't finish till like 6, so yeah, it's now the afternoon, and I've just woken up. So I don't know what other people's opinions of the show are right now, and I'm sure throughout the day I'll find out. But something here just didn't click. Whether it was the matches, whether it was just the segments, there was some weird segments going on. There were some weird results that I probably wouldn't have gone with. And yeah, matches didn't deliver where they should have. And it's very disappointing in that sense. And it's very unlike AEW to do that as well. But yeah, no, for me, I'd probably say this is going to be AEW's worst pay-per-view of the year. Or else it wouldn't surprise me if it will be. It might be in the bottom 5 for AEW all time. Because it just, as I said, nothing here really worked. I said during my predictions video that this was going to be a pay-per-view of AEW putting on fantastic professional wrestling for the sake of putting on great professional wrestling. Because the thing is, we're not so close to All In. But there's really no massive stakes here, as there was a few matches where we kind of knew the result was going to go one way due to All In. So yeah, it just kind of, again, it took away from the fight, but I thought, cool, if we can just have 10 just fantastic wrestling matches, then this will be cool. People will love it because there's no stakes, really. Like, even though there's championships on the line, we know who's going to win and who isn't. So, yeah, I hope that will make sense. But we're going to go through match by match as we normally do and kind of give my thoughts on each one, and then, yeah, just give my general consensus stuff at the end. So the night kicks off with the International Championship #1 Contenders ladder match won by Speedball Mike Bailey, which didn't surprise me. I thought that was going to be the case going in. I had completely forgotten that he is Canadian. So yeah, it kind of made sense even more that in Canada he wins that ladder match. Wouldn't surprise me if maybe Jack Perry got the win as well. But I like Speedball Mike Bailey for a win. He has really good chemistry with Kyle Fletcher, so I'm looking forward to seeing that match happen again. El Clone is absolutely brilliant in the ring. All the stuff he does is really, really smooth. And like, I don't know, I feel like we should be seeing him wrestle a lot more than we actually do. I know he's been injured recently, and then the whole reason that he was kind of brought in was to feud with Hologram, of which then Hologram got injured, and we haven't seen him in a long, long time. But yeah, El Clone is absolutely fantastic. We need to get him wrestling more, even if it's just one-off matches on Collision. There was a beautiful Phoenix Splash from Nick Wayne to El Clone through a table. It was fantastically done from a ladder. Honestly, hopefully there'll be clips of it going around because it was absolutely beautiful. And respect to Nick Wayne again, who took a destroyer on a ladder from, I believe, Jack Perry. But overall, this was a really decent match. It wasn't the best ladder match I've seen, but it was a pretty good ladder match to kick off the show with. I like the fact that they opened the show with this one. I expected it to be the Young Bucks match, which obviously came after this, but yeah, I thought this was a really cool way, really exciting way to start off the show, and yeah, it's probably one of the bigger highlights of the event in my opinion. Going on to the Young Bucks match against Ospreay and Moxley, and there was like an unusual dynamic to this one. They did this whole thing where Nick Wayne clashed heads with Will Ospreay fairly early in, and then he was kind of how do you put it? Like, he was all dazed throughout the match, and like he wasn't quite getting into it. Then he'd have flurries of being into the match like he normally would as a Young Buck, but then he would go back into kind of being all dazed again not long afterwards, which kind of made me feel like it's massively worked. I don't think there's anything wrong with Nick Jackson overall. I think he's going to be fine going forward, but yeah, it felt more like the Young Bucks wrestling a Death Riders match rather than the usual case, especially when it comes to these singles competitors tagging together against the Young Bucks, where they have a Young Bucks match. Which was a bit disappointing. I had really high hopes about this one, but for me, this was one of the matches that massively under-delivered, in my opinion. For the most part, it was a handicap match with Matt Jackson taking on Moxley and Ospreay by himself. But there was, as always, the great sequence between the Young Bucks and the opponents where I believe it was Matt Jackson, or one of the Jacksons did a 450 onto Moxley, then Ospreay did a 450 onto them, then there was a Destroyer, there was an EVP trigger to Moxley, and then there was a Hidden Blade to Matt Jackson. It was a really cool sequence of wrestling that, only the Young Bucks tend to do during these tag team matches, and it's absolutely fantastic. But Moxley should have won it. Like, when he did 2 paradigm shifts and a Death Rider to Nick Jackson and then didn't go for the pin, I was really confused. And obviously it's because the Young Bucks were winning, but personally, if I was Moxley, I would have, ideally, Moxley would have just pinned him there, and that would have been it. So I wasn't great. And this was something that happened again later on the show, where somebody had quite clearly got a match won, and they just didn't go for the pin, didn't even attempt it. And yeah, that was really annoying. For me, the Bucks stole this one. Nick Jackson was an easy target that should have been dealt with and won or lost fairly quickly. Not quickly, but like, you know, he should have been the one that got the pin because he was the one that was most hurt. Would have made the most sense. Gives Ospreay some momentum going into All In. But no, instead the Bucks kind of survived this one. And yeah, as I said, it just didn't deliver as much as I wanted it to. Then we go on to Kyle Fletcher successfully defending the International Championship against Bandito in what was by far the best match of the night, in my opinion. And even that was like an 8 out of 10. Which kind of, for me, tells you how good this whole show was. But again, these two had really great dynamic between them. There was a perfectly timed thrust kick from Kyle Fletcher to Bandito, who did a moonsault to the outside. It looked brutal. He got it. It was timed perfectly right. It was placed perfectly right. Just Kyle Fletcher showing to you why he will be one of the best wrestlers in the world at some point in the near future, probably. The brainbuster on the apron looked awful. They really zoned in on Bandito's neck, and it just looked brutal. There was a lovely frog splash to the outside where Bandito pretty much got all of his weight on Kyle Fletcher's chest, and then he did a shooting star press, I believe, straight afterwards, putting him back in the ring. I wouldn't have been surprised if that won the match for him, but I knew it wouldn't because it's not a finisher. But, you know, it was a really cool sequence between those two, and yeah, these two have great chemistry together. I want to see these two have a rematch at some point, and probably one where they can kind of even let go a little bit more. They can probably go into a more main event place instead of third on the show. But yeah, this one I was very happy with how this one went, and I'm glad this one delivered. Not to the point, you know, I said in my predictions video that this was going to be a match of the year contender. It really wasn't. Kyle Fletcher's had a lot better matches with people, so I'm hoping that this is them holding back a little bit because they're going to face each other in the near future once again. And then we got the Dogs defeating the Bang Bang Gang in a double chain match, which for me was one of the weaker matches of the night. I don't know whether it was just lack of interest going into this one, though I'm a big fan of both teams. I like the Bang Bang Gang, I like the Dogs as well, but for some reason I just didn't have much interest in this one. Yeah, I thought that the match was over when they had Juice choked out and they kind of trapped Jay White within the chain, or it wasn't within chain, like they kind of wrapped the chain within the ropes, and Jay White couldn't get to Juice until he did like the massive strength stuff, and then he eventually got to Juice. There was a brutal landings for both Jay White, where he nearly just landed straight on his neck and head, and also Clark Connors took a pretty brutal bump into the steel steps not long after that one. Then we saw the Death Riders and the Dogs Alliance pay off, which we know is like because of Gabe Kidd, where the Death Riders came, Yuta and Garcia came out, and Marina Shafir came out, helped the Dogs get the win here. And yeah, it was fine. He said, I would have preferred just a straight tag match. It wouldn't surprise me if we got some kind of stadium stampede between the Dogs, the Bang Bang Gang, maybe some other people at All In. But I personally would prefer for Moxley to face Jay White in a one-on-one match at All In, and then just the other guys kind of not be on the card. And that sounds very harsh. And I think if we're going to do a Casino Gauntlet, that's how you get these guys on the card. But yeah, it feels like we're going into some kind of group warfare between some of the Death Riders, the Dogs, and the Bang Bang Gang. So I assume that'll come at some point. But yeah, I said the match was alright. For a chain match, I expected a little bit more. I expected it to be a little bit more brutal, but it unfortunately wasn't the case. Following that, we had Hikaru Shida Maya World defeated Hikaru Shida to become the new TBS champion, and what was a huge win for Maya World, but it was the worst. Again, it's like the second worst match on the card. Like, this match really started to annoy me. It got to the kind of point where I was getting really annoyed, just shouting for it just to end, which isn't great when it comes to some matches. The thing is that we know Hikaru Shida and Maya World can have great matches. Maya World had great matches with Mercedes Moné, and Hikaru Shida, I mean, she's been able for that long. We know she can have good matches with people. But they did the story of like, oh, Maya has a hurt knee, and you know, they kind of told the story of that. But it kind of got to a point where it was affecting the match massively, in my opinion. And you know, she was limping around. The match really, really slowed down. And yeah, I don't know whether it was lack of chemistry between these two. It didn't feel as smooth as maybe what it could have. But yeah, it kind of just got to a point where I was expecting more. There was just really slow moments. The crowd was kind of dying out a little bit at times. There was way too many kickouts near the end from Maya World as well. But the thing that really, really annoyed me was Hikaru Shida had her submission in. She had her main submission that she's been winning matches with since winning the TBS Championship. She's got it locked in, and it's a submission for the knee. So it's especially going to affect Maya World because her knee is hurt. And then Hikaru Shida just lets go of the submission to just do a bunch of knees and not pin her. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, either don't put the submission on, do a bunch of knee strikes, and then Maya World just, like, rolls her up and pins her, steals it, essentially. Or have her just tap out, we'll do a rematch at some point. But no, it was just like, Hikaru Shida had this match won, and then she decided she wasn't going to win it. It was so stupid. But overall, the match was fine. I just wanted more from it. I didn't like the finish at all. Shida looked dumb as fuck. As I said, it was a massive win for my world. Congratulations to her for winning the TBS Championship. But everything about this just screamed, it should have been a lot better than it was. It was very frustrating near the end. And yeah, I just really didn't like this one. But speaking of not liking this one, we go to Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, which are now... I don't know if they did this on the preview before, on Double or Nothing and all that, but they're now saying that he is Adam Copeland. Like, there's no Cope. Cope is now not being used, which is good, because Cope is a dumb name. But yes, we have Christian Cage and Adam Copeland take on and defeat Claudio Castagnoli and Pac. This was trash, in my opinion. Like, I really like the Death Riders, I really do, and I'm a massive fan of Christian Cage, but Adam Copeland pisses me off so much. And this was another case of this being the Adam Copeland show, and it annoys me. But yeah, I loved how Pac and Claudio, like, they attacked Adam Copeland during the whole singing of his theme song thing. Loved that. That's a very Hill thing to do. Get some heat immediately. Love that. But then it was just a really slow start. Cope just like kept getting knocked down. He was letting the team down a lot. You know, Christian Cage was relying on him to be a tag team partner, and yeah, he just couldn't get himself working. He just laid out on the floor for like the majority of the match. I'm fairly sure 80% of this match, maybe even 90% of this match, was a handicap match, which is they just done with the Young Bucks and the other Death Riders in the second match in. But it wasn't for as long. Like, I'm telling you now, Christian Cage was absolutely beaten in this match. But yeah, like, again, it was just like... Also, Christian Cage has had this thing on his arm for months now. Like, FTR did that to him, and we haven't seen FTR in months. Like, when is Christian Cage going to be alright? And it's a case of... It's not as if Copeland and Christian are wrestling regularly. Because they're not. They're only wrestling on the pay-per-views. They're not wrestling on weekly TV. Or at least Christian isn't. Yeah, I think Copeland did one tag match with the Bang Bang Gang for no reason at all. But... yeah, it was just like, okay, well, this is fine. And I know they're getting attacked and stuff weekly, but Christian's got more than enough time to recover from this arm injury already. It's just like, okay, fine. The Death Riders absolutely should have won this one. They should have had this one won like 10 to 15 minutes away from the finish. And the thing is, I know over this channel, over these AEW pay-per-views, I have absolutely hated on Edge and Christian, or Copeland and Christian, getting the tag team titles, having bad matches. And it's kind of like a funny thing I do. This is me being deadly serious. I hated this match a lot. This might be one of the worst AEW matches on pay-per-view of that entire year. It was awful. But yeah, it was the most undeserving win I think I've ever seen in my life to get Copeland and Christian the win here. You know, Copeland, again, eventually, it was like all about him getting back to his tag, getting to the hot tag, and then kind of going on a run and then winning the match essentially. And it's just like, I don't care at all about Adam Copeland, or like, it's terrible. And then, so yeah, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage get the win, and then we get the confirmed match for All In, the one everyone's been asking for, which is the Young Bucks versus Christian and Cage. And Christian and Cage, interesting. Christian and Copeland. And I know some people are not going to like that either, but to be fair, the match was always going to be Copeland and Cage versus the Young Bucks. All In. It was always going to be. So if we want it, and Tony Khan wants it, and the tag teams want it, and everybody wants it, just make the match. Like, it's one of the things I really like about AEW is the fact that they don't mess about sometimes. You know, in WWE, they'll be like, oh no, they've got to win no one contenders match, or they got to do this, and they got to do that. Then they'll get to the match. AEW would just go, you want the match, we want the match. We're making the match. And that's it. And sometimes that's all it takes. And that's one of the things, I think the best part of this whole thing was just making the match with the Young Bucks. And yeah, I'm interested to see how the build goes, because again, I'm not that interested in the Bucks being tag team champions again, but I will absolutely take the Bucks being tag team champions again if it means that Cage and Copeland are not. So yeah, very disappointed with this one, and just fed up of Adam Copeland, like to a point where I'm not even trying to be funny anymore. It is genuinely just really annoying me. After that, we had Painmaker Chris Jericho, or just the Painmaker, because Chris Jericho hates his own name now, apparently, versus Psycho Killer Tommaso Ciampa in a holds barred match. And yeah, this was really good. This was respect to both guys. They took some horrific bumps. Chris Jericho did look like an absolute moron, though. I'm not gonna lie. The whole makeup thing, he looked like he was a fan trying to be Sting. It was quite funny. But I get it. He's done it before. He did it in Japan. I understand the whole point of it. It just looked a little bit stupid, in my opinion. But, you know, I mean, I saw past it fairly quickly because he's done it before in AEW. They did a bunch of hockey references that I just had no idea what they were talking about. But no, respect to Tommaso Ciampa, he took a absolute beating in this match. The only thing that annoyed me was kind of the finish, to be fair, which, you know, no shock on this one. But yeah, I don't know what Jericho and then Ciampa, I don't know what Jericho was stabbing Ciampa with. Tony Schiavone said it was a pencil, of which I fucking hope not. But yeah, I thought it was some kind of screwdriver again, but I don't know. They didn't really show properly what it was. If it was a pencil, then why a pencil? But yeah, there was a cool barbed wire moment. There was I say that, but like the barbed wire is so clearly fake in AEW, and like I understand it's like, well, you don't want to use real barbed wire, but it's like use the barbed wire that they either used to use when it was like Hangman and Swerve and Hangman and Moxley, that did cut into skin but not too much, or like the ones that WWE used to use when they use barbed wire all the time, but the ones they're using now just isn't cutting. Like the people will be like, oh my god, he's trapped in the barbed wire, no blood. What do you mean no blood? It's barbed wire. But yeah, not great. There was a really cool mirror spot. Jericho taking there was like 2 mirror spots, but Jericho hit him with the wrong side of the mirror first, and then hit him with the right side when all the glass was sharded up, so that was pretty cool. But no, Chris Jericho taking a big bump through a mirror, I thought was pretty cool from him. Yeah, the drill spot I think they're never going to do the drill spot because it just doesn't make any sense. And then they did it, and they essentially, you saw that the drill never actually hit Ciampa's head, and then Ciampa did everything he does to cover his head because clearly they're just like, they're actually going to drill somebody, are they? Because that would do permanent damage. So yeah, I don't know why they put a drill into this booking essentially, but yeah, that was really silly. That kind of took away from the match for me. It probably would have got an 8 out of 10 should they have not done the drill stuff, but they did. So it went down to a 7. But yeah, it was fine for this part. Again, one of the more enjoyable matches of the night. And yeah, hopefully this is kind of it between these two. I feel like if we're going to do a Casino Gauntlet All-In, these two might be the starting two, just to carry this feud on, but like in a bigger match. Following that, we saw Andrade win the national championship from Mark Davis in what was a pretty good match. Andrade absolutely proved himself as an absolute babyface when he started collecting baddies during his entrance, as well as had another one in the crowd just to be sure. 5 baddies from Andrade, fair play to him. I would have liked to, there was like, the match started with Andrade doing the fake kick into the back elbow. If that had been it for the match, I actually would have been quite happy with it. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I know it would have maybe buried Mark Davis, and that would have been great for him, but I don't know. I feel like for Andrade, it would have probably done him the world of good. But yeah, I would say the quick finishing stuff I thought would have been really cool. But it was a really fast-paced start from these two, but then it did kind of go into a more methodical pace by the end. And yeah, I really like the fact that one thing I do like about Mark Davis is the deadlift he does into a pile driver. So he just picks him up just to put him straight back down again. I really like that, to be fair. I think it's one of the better things he does as part of his moveset. And fair play to Mark Davis. Like, he looks incredible from a physique standpoint. Like, I remember when he first came in, he was like this really big dude. And now he's like, looks really good. And fair play to him for losing all that weight. I wish I could. But yeah, overall, this was a really fun match. I only give like a 6 out of 10. It was a fun match. It wasn't like the best thing we've seen. I know Andrade can have better matches, but yeah, I look forward to seeing what he does as national champion. I wonder whether he's going to get on the All-In card, which is a shame because I really want him to. Like, you could quite easily have him face just another member of the Don Callis family defending the championship. But yeah, I look forward to seeing him as champion, and yeah, I like the fact that he's now a babyface and he's just putting on really cool matches. After that, we had the more predictable match of the night. Or like the last 2 matches were the most predictable of the night by far. But we had Willow Nightingale defeat Tekla to become the new AEW Women's Champion, and she is now the first Women's Grand Slam Champion. And I looked online a little bit afterwards, and it was like in 8 months, Willow Nightingale has won all 3 titles available to the women, being the Tag Champions, where she was the first. She won the TBS championship from Mercedes Moné at the end of last year, and now she is the Women's World Champion as well, and will go on to face Mercedes Moné at All In what will be a great match. These two have really good chemistry together. They had a really good match at Double or Nothing. They had a really good match at the end of last year. I have no doubts that they'll have probably their best match at All In. But yeah, this has been a really good feud throughout the years of AEW. Like, it hasn't been one that's just been them constantly fighting like a Hangman and Swerve or Mariah May and Toni Storm. But they have been going, like, they're not always like connected to each other one way or another. So this is a really good way to finish off and have that third match between them both. But Tekla and Willow, they had another quick start to this match, which I very much enjoyed. Words. Willow Nightingale did a pounce to Tekla very early in, which I thought was maybe going to settle for a quick match, but again, that wasn't the case. Tekla, I noticed, was very, very limited to what her offense could be when it comes to Willow Nightingale, just because of the size of Willow Nightingale. Nothing to do with, like, nothing offensive to Willow Nightingale. She is a big woman. Tekla is tiny. So naturally, Tekla was going to struggle, but she did adapt well at times, and she did get her stuff in, just in more like unique ways compared to usual. The crowd, though, was silent at times, which absolutely sucked. You know, these two are like, especially when it comes to Willow Nightingale, who's one of the biggest baby faces in the company. I really expected the crowd to really get behind her and she'll have a massive pop when she get the win, but at times she did just like, you know, it was just silent at times, and it really sucked, like, that point. There was a nice reversal from Willow Nightingale, where Tekla went for a spear, she reversed it into the powerbomb, which didn't get her the win, unfortunately. Not sure about the roll-up for the win. I would have much preferred Willow Nightingale absolutely plant her with a powerbomb, and then get the win. Maybe they're setting up some kind of rematch on Grand Slam, or some kind of Dynamite going, like, before All In. But very happy with Willow Nightingale, very much deserving as well. She's been one of the people that's really been consistently good on AEW television for many, many years now. It's just a shame that they're going to do to her what they did to her originally with the TBS Championship, which was she takes it from one wrestler. So she took the TBS title from Julia Hart at Dynasty in 2023. But she took the title from Julia Hart, had it for a month, lost it to Mercedes Moné at Double or Nothing. She is now taking the title from Tekla, going to hold it for a month, and then lose it to Mercedes Moné again. So this is the thing. They've kind of put themselves into a corner here when it comes to this Willow versus Mercedes match. Because as much as you would think that Mercedes Moné is definitely going to get a win here, they can't afford for Mercedes Moné to lose another World Championship match, because it'll be a third or fourth attempt at the title, and she loses again. So it's going to be Mercedes Moné, belt collector, but can't win the big one. Or you absolutely screw over Willow Nightingale again, where she wins a championship, has this great moment on one pay-per-view, loses it the next, and then I assume, like, I would like to say that she has a rematch, but she's not going to win a rematch. So yeah, it's just a bit of a shame when it comes to Willow Nightingale, the way that she's probably going to get screwed over again. Or they're going to make Mercedes Moné look not like the star that she is by having her lose another world title match. So yeah, very much booked into a corner with this one. And then moving on to the main event. Now, the main event was just a placeholder for the aftermath, essentially. Like, the match was good. I expected a little bit more. It wasn't as competitive as I imagined it would be, as there was times where Omega was just absolutely controlling the match. Again, I expected a lot more, especially when it came to LA Knight. I knew I was going to do that as well. Especially when it came to Kevin Knight. LA Knight doesn't work here. But yeah, Kenny Omega was throughout giving heel vibes, which made sense in the aftermath. But he's like talking shit during the match, but in a heelish kind of way. And it didn't make any sense to me. There was a nice finish though. Knight did, he did good, but he got beaten up a lot. Like I said, it was a good, paying his dues kind of match for Kevin Knight. But yeah, it just, again, wasn't as good as I wanted it to, at least what I thought it was going to be. I gave it a 7, but I don't know, I came out of it just thinking, why was there not more? And then we got all the aftermath, and it was like, oh, that's probably why. I just didn't want it to outshine what happened afterwards. But yes, this was a match just to get to the aftermath, of which then we saw the Death Riders come out and attack Kenny Omega. They were going to do the spot where Claudio Castagnoli stomps on the chair on the neck. Will Ospreay stops them. Moxley brings out a plastic bag, and gives it to Will Ospreay, tells him to do it to Omega. Ospreay rips up the bag and attacks Jon Moxley. Or he doesn't attack him, he kind of just drops him with a forearm. Moxley rolls out the ring. He's sick of Will Ospreay's shit because he's being a nice guy, and Moxley doesn't want him to be a nice guy. He wants him to be a killer. The Young Bucks came in, by the way. The Young Bucks came in while the Death Riders attacked Kenny, and they also got beaten up a little bit. Again, proving that Nick Jackson's head is clearly okay. So Ospreay saves Omega. Omega then realizes that Ospreay's going to plastic bag him. So then eventually Omega drops Ospreay with a one-winged angel, and the Elite stand tall. People see this as a heel turn. I don't know whether that's the case. It didn't feel like a proper heel turn, but it makes sense, the fact that, like, no one in the UK, especially myself, I'm not going to boo Will Ospreay, who's been a tweener in the Death Riders. But I'm certainly not going to cheer Kenny Omega when the world title is on the line. So it makes sense that they have Omega be the heel in this situation. Personally, I would have waited on the Moxley turn until after All In. I would have done it the Dynamite after All In, where he's like, yes, you've won the big one. And then Moxley just annihilates Will Ospreay, and then they have a match at, I assume, Wrestle Dream. But yeah, I don't know. I understand why we're doing it, because the dynamic of the heel and face and all that kind of thing wasn't going to favour Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega here, because we would have cheered Will Ospreay, who's the kind of the tweener, and we would have booed Kenny, who is the face. So it's kind of good that we fixed that dynamic. Also, having the Young Bucks turn heel as well makes a lot of sense with them going up against Cage and Copeland, because again, people aren't going to boo Cage and Copeland. I will boo Copeland to hell if I have to, but I would not ever boo Christian Cage. I love Christian Cage. So, yeah, it's an interesting way to, like, they kind of did a double turn without kind of doing a double turn, because Ospreay wasn't in the match. But I said, it was fine for the most part. Again, match was just there to get to this stuff afterwards. And I feel like they might pull the trigger on Ospreay turning on the Death Riders maybe a little bit early, because now why wouldn't Moxley get involved in the main event of All In? But, I don't know. Maybe we'll have some kind of Death Riders versus the Elite and Ospreay tag match or something. I don't bloody know. But, yeah, I said, that was my thoughts on all the matches, and we will go into the outro now. So those are my thoughts and opinions on AEW Redemption 2026. It was okay, yeah, for them as well. Like, the thing is, it wasn't awful, it wasn't god-awful. Like, you know, we get much worse out of WWE, but if you compare it to every other AEW show, it was pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. Also, I think I forgot to mention, Mick Foley made an absolute moron of himself on this pay-per-view. So we interviewed Divine Dominion. They tell him to bow down, and he's going, bow, wow, and then starts barking. That's disgraceful. Why is Mick Foley... Actually, no. I mean, I can kind of understand why he's barking at Megan Bayne and Lana Cross. But we don't need to see that. You can do that behind the scenes. We don't need to see that on television. They made him look like a right knob. Honestly, it was so cringeworthy. Oh, it was terrible. Anyway, but yeah, overall, it was fine. It was, you know, I expected a little bit more out of this one. A lot of this show was affected by the fact that, this person isn't going to win because of All In. This person's not going to lose their title because of All In. These people are clearly going to win because they're going to defend the title at All In. So, yeah, that massively hindered this pay-per-view. Personally, if you're going to do it, like, if we're going to do Redemption at this time-ish every year, I would have the Owen Hart tournament final here. Because then you can go straight into a feud and rivalry with whoever wins the Owen Hart tournaments against champions going into All In. That is what I would do. Then Forbidden Door is not an issue if it's in the middle of it all. Because essentially having the two winners of the Owen Hart tournament and then two pay-per-views afterwards, it means that they can't do much because they're getting ready for their big feud when we get to end of July. So... I don't know. I feel like it would be better off doing it here, but then maybe they didn't have an idea for Redemption until after the Owen tournament. But I don't know. But let me know what you said. Words. Let me know what you thought of the show in the comments below. I'm curious to see what people thought, because I really thought this was a letdown in my opinion. But yeah, I want to know what you all thought about this one, what your favourite match was. Mine was definitely Kyle Fletcher and Bandido, but even that didn't live up to the hype the height that I thought it was going to get to in my own head. So that was really disappointing as well. But yeah, do let me know what you think. And yeah, there's lots of good content coming up already. Tomorrow there is my 7th episode of the Retrospective, where I've gone through the whole of 2007 in WWE, and the coverage of SummerSlam begins. There'll be predictions, there's lists, there's reviews, there's the live stream where we see the return of my good friend Zero, which means the live streams on my channel are going away soon. And also go check out my second channel, the the music retrospective. There is a link for it down in the description, where I've just done a bunch of list videos about songs from bands I really like, so go and check that out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.